Good evening, everybody. I'm going to read some scriptures here. What's been on my mind the last few days is the lawlessness we're seeing in our nation right now. We've got a kind of a outburst of lawlessness happening. These smash and grab thefts in Los Angeles and New York City, Chicago, and other big cities down in Florida. Right here in Colorado, Denver, which is just 70 miles from here, and there's a lot of thefts downtown on 16th Street. Where I used to go and play gigs down there. I haven't played down there in about 3 years, but I was playing down there a lot of gigs just 3 years ago. But frankly, I'm not sure I'd want to go down there right now because there's a lot of lawlessness. Uh, there's a lot of people hanging around down in downtown Denver, and the crime rate has increased in Denver dramatically over just the last year, and especially just since the pandemic started 2 years ago, COVID. But we're seeing a very rapid rise in lawlessness in our nation. And so I wanted to talk about that and what causes that. Um, we have a plethora today of leaders, bad leadership. Leaders, mayors, governors, uh, and in our national government that right now that are lawless. We have people who think that abortion is right. We have people in government who think that homosexual marriage is a right. We have people in government that believe that it's perfectly fine for a man to be a woman and a woman to be a man. We have people in our leadership that think that killing a baby that's not born yet is some kind of a human right, or even go so far as to call it a sacrament, or it's almost a holy thing to them when actually it's an unholy thing. We have people like Nancy Pelosi and people in government, in our national government and in state governments that believe that killing an unborn child is a near sacrament, like it's almost a sacrosanct thing. And our leadership today is extremely lawless and twisted. These people shouldn't even be in leadership, frankly. They've twisted our laws, and frankly, that's why we're seeing so much lawlessness, and we're seeing a rapid increase in crime all over America, really. Not just Denver, but Los Angeles, New York City, Chicago, and nearly every major city in the last year and a half. Crime has increased a great deal. Chicago, near record in murders by gun in 2021. The smash and grab thefts in Los Angeles and San Francisco, Chicago, New York City, and other major cities. The crime rate in Denver alone has gone up something like 30 to 40% just in the last year. When I grew up in Denver, in the Denver area in the 1970s, 60s, and 70s, there was a shooting, like a shooting that was where somebody was killed by a gun, maybe once a month, if that. And when I look at the news in the Denver local news today, there's at least one shooting and a killing almost every day now. And it's gotten worse just in the last 8 to 10 years. Seriously. You know, it's the crime in the city I was born in has just risen rapidly in the last 10 years. I turn on the news, the local Denver news, and there's at least one, maybe two or three or four shootings in the city of Denver or the surrounding area just about every day now. And just 5, 6, 7 years ago, that didn't happen. There weren't shootings every day just a few years ago. The crime in the Denver area has just exploded, and our leaders, they just constantly make excuses. I mean, our own mayor in Denver, Hancock, was marching with Black Lives Matter. Was it a couple of years ago, year and a half ago? He went out and marched with Black Lives Matter. You know, the group that is against police, and they want to defund the police, and their leaders are admitted Marxists. Well, the mayor in Denver have went out and marched with Black Lives Matter. He went out and marched with them and had no mask on, so he was violating his own, COVID rules, which all these leaders do too. So, but I wanted to talk about that and the scriptures that talk about lawless leadership. So I'll start with Proverbs 29:2. This is the ESV. When the righteous increase, the people rejoice, but when the wicked rule, the people groan. And isn't that what we're saying? Proverbs 29:12. If a ruler listens to falsehood, all his officials will be wicked. So what that means is if a leader listens to lies and believes lies, all of his officials, all of his administration will be wicked, because it starts at the top. Proverbs 16:12. It is an abomination to kings to do evil, for the throne is established by righteousness. Okay, I'll go on here. Proverbs 29:4. By justice a king builds up the land, but he who exacts gifts tears it down. Now, what does that mean? It means that a king or a president or a leader who exacts or extracts gifts or tries to extract payment, too much payment from the citizens, that leader tears the nation down. In other words, if you have a king or a president or a leader or a prime minister who wants gifts all the time and is greedy, he's tearing down his own nation. And frankly, I think we're full of leaders like that today. Greedy people, lawless people that are in offices. And this is why we're seeing the rapid increase of lawlessness in the last just a few years. Proverbs 28:16. A ruler who lacks understanding is a cruel oppressor, but he who hates unjust gain will prolong his days. Isaiah 1:23. Your princes are rebels and companions of thieves. That's the leaders, princes, senators, congressmen, presidents, premiers. Your princes are rebels and companions of thieves. The leaders are thieves. Everyone loves a bribe and runs after gifts. They do not bring justice to the fatherless, and the widow's cause does not come to them. These are wicked leaders. Okay. Proverbs 11:14. Where there is no guidance, a people fall, but in abundance of counselors there is safety. Okay. Proverbs 29:14. If a king faithfully judges the poor, his throne will be established forever. But the opposite can be said. If a king does not faithfully judge the poor of the nation, his throne will be brought down. Psalm 33:12. Blessed is the nation whose God is the Lord, the people whom he has chosen as his heritage. The nation is blessed whose God is the Lord. But the opposite can be said of that as well. A nation whose God is not the Lord, that rejects God, will not be blessed, and in fact, they'll be cursed. Hosea 4:6. My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. Because you have rejected knowledge, I reject you from being a priest to me. And since you have forgotten the law of your God, I also will forget your children. Okay, that's pertaining to a leader. Isaiah 3:4. And I will make boys their princes, and infants shall rule over them. That's what God says it happens to a wicked nation and a wicked leadership is their leaders will become children. Okay. So, all right, my last one here. Proverbs 28:15. Like a roaring lion or a charging bear is a wicked ruler over a poor people. I mean, that kind of says it all, I think. That when a nation has wicked rulers, that country's in big trouble because eventually God is going to bring judgment on that nation. I have to wonder, my friends, here in America, is God beginning to judge us? Is the Lord taking his hand of protection and grace and mercy away from our country? As we see more and more lawlessness and crime is rising rapidly, is it because God has lifted his hand of protection and he's letting us have our own way? He said, okay, if you want to kill, if you want to destroy your own babies, if you want to kill your own children through millions of abortions, you want to spill more blood, you want to reject my law, you want to install homosexual marriage as lawful, you want to install transgenderism, and you want to tell children that oh, you might be a girl and it's a boy, or you might be a boy and it's actually a girl. And we have teachers and leaders preaching this stuff at children in schools, even in some churches. Even our churches have become corrupt. Corrupt leaders in churches that bless homosexuality, that refuse to call it a sin. They bless gay marriage. In fact, they even do gay marriages in certain denominations that call themselves Christian today. How long is God going to put up with this, do you think? It's been 46, 47 years since the blood spilling of abortion became the law of America. It's been about, what, seven years now, 8 years since homosexual marriage was codified into federal national law. And some of you say, well, you're a homophobe and you're a bigot. And I'm like, well, you call me what you want, but you look at what's happening. Judgment on America if we won't quit it. Stop sinning. Stop these lawless edicts that you're passing that defy God's word and that hurt God's people. Putting in Canada, they're putting a pastor in prison, Arthur Pawlowski. Canada, once a free nation, and now they're imprisoning a man of God, a pastor who came from communist Poland and saw communism with his own eyes and came to what he thought was a free country in Canada. And now Canada, the authorities in Calgary have put him in prison for what? For keeping his church open during the COVID pandemic and making a mockery of the authorities and the police. I saw his last arrest, Arthur Pawlowski. What a courageous man He's seen communism. He's standing up and saying, look, they're doing the same thing that I saw in a communist nation 30 years ago. You people need to stand up. And they've arrested him. That's lawlessness on the part of authorities in Canada, not on the part of Artur Pawlowski or other pastors up there. And if we continue on the same route, we'll go down the same path here in America. If our governments, state, county, city, and federal, continue to bless and push and promote lawlessness, things that are against God's word in the Bible, things that are against the natural order of sexuality, and these mayors and governors continue to push this stuff and make it law, God's judgment will continue coming. We'll have more fires. We'll have more lawlessness. Crime will keep increasing because God will take his hand off of us and say, I'll let you have your own way. It'll be like Sodom and Gomorrah. And eventually, if we don't quit it, if America doesn't quit blessing sin and lawlessness and corruption and perversity, the same thing will happen to us that happened to Sodom and Gomorrah. We'll be like Babylon or Sodom and Gomorrah. And at some point, God will just boom. The whole thing. Destruction on a lawless nation. And yet people don't want to wake up. Be blessed.